A Texas teenager gave birth to a baby boy and put his tiny body into a dumpster behind a food truck. Now, thankfully, the boy was found, the mother was arrested, now she's headed for prison, but we're gonna take a closer look at what could lead a person to do something so horrific, and we're gonna bring on psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Bober. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. It's really difficult for many people to imagine giving birth to a baby and not loving that child more than anything else on earth. It's like built into our DNA. Now, I say that, but unfortunately, in rare cases, that we nevertheless cover all too often here on Law&Crime, new mothers reject that love and commitment and do everything they can to get rid of their newborn. One of those people is Everilda Cux-Ajtzalam. Now, we first told you about her last year when she was arrested for abandoning her baby boy in a dumpster behind a food truck where she worked in Houston. According to the Houston Chronicle, Everilda was working alone when she went into labor. She was 18 years old at the time. And on July 21st of last year, a passerby, thankfully, heard crying from a large trash bin. That witness called 911, and Houston police, EMS, they rushed to the scene. The baby, who was later given the name Gabriel, was in a trash bag that had been tied shut, along with the placenta and the umbilical cord. And by the way, he had signs that he had only just been born. The Harris County District Attorney's Office acknowledged that that 911 call almost certainly saved Gabriel's life. So I don't have the answers to why this is happening. I don't have the answers to what's the mindset for somebody that might do this, but I do have somebody who maybe does have those answers. To delve deeper into how something like this could happen, I want to bring back onto Sidebar renowned psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Bober. Doctor, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. This really is horrific, and it is nothing short of a miracle that this baby is alive. Have you dealt with something like this, in the sense, have you dealt with evaluating somebody who is accused of doing this or has done something like this?
I actually have a couple times, believe it or not. Listen, I'm not excusing it. I'm not condoning it. But you're talking about someone who had every strike against her. She suffered a profound trauma. She claimed that she was raped, and people who are raped go through a variety of defense mechanisms to try to cope with their situation. For example, dissociation or disconnecting from their thoughts and emotions. And she may have seen the baby as a symbol of her assault and wanted to get as far away from it as possible. So the normal bonding and attachment that occurs, these processes were disturbed. She suffered intense shame, a stigma of societal judgment of her culture, of her family. And so engaging in a form of psychological denial by disposing of the infant as it's a reminder of what she's gone through, and in her mind, making it something that never happened. So again, I don't excuse the behavior. It's a horrific act, but I understand why she did what she did, or I believe I do.
Now, to be clear, you haven't had an opportunity to evaluate her for yourself and know what
Correct.
The mindset is, but this is based on your experience in assessing people who have done something similar. I guess the question is then, based on what you're saying, you would say, again, going back to what I mentioned before, how could a mother, just effectively try to end her baby's life unless there was no love there, right? So you're saying because of the way in which this baby was conceived, you're saying that a mother may not even if she gives birth to that baby, I mentioned it's part of the DNA, you automatically love that baby. That's not the case. You're saying there could be a detachment. There isn't a level of warmth. There isn't that level of love. There can be that detachment in those situations.
So this baby was born during an extreme crisis situation. So we have that fear, that fight or flight response, lack of support, social isolation, cultural and linguistic factors. This is someone who I don't even know if her immigration status played into it. She didn't understand the culture. She had limited supports, if any. She was basically completely cut off from anyone that could help her. And again, while I don't excuse her behavior, I believe that this is not like some of the other cases where we've covered people who were antisocial or had psychopathic tendencies. I think this is someone who was just scared, overwhelmed, was unable to cope with her situation, had limited supports, didn't speak the language. She spoke Quiche, which is an indigenous Mayan language, wasn't aware of the baby Moses law, that she could have taken the baby to a safe place, no questions asked. So I think there were just a number of strikes against her here that unfortunately put the baby at risk.
Now, not to take away from this story in any way, this horrific story, but one of the reasons that we were able to bring this case to you and illuminate what was going on is because we get support from our amazing sponsors, and that includes OneSkin. And that's important because our skin changes as we get older. There's dryness, there's deeper wrinkles, it can be frustrating, but there is a game changer out there called OneSkin. So OneSkin was founded by an all-woman team of scientists who developed a proprietary OS01 peptide. This peptide targets cellular senescence, that is a key hallmark of aging. It's scientifically proven to decrease lines and wrinkles, boost hydration, and help with thinning skin. In fact, they have over 4,000 five-star reviews for their full line of face, body, sun, and travel-sized products. And one of the things I like most about OneSkin is how easy it is to integrate into my daily routine. Just a few simple steps, good to go. So for a limited time, you can try OneSkin for 15% off using the code SIDEBAR when you check out at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with code SIDEBAR. Remember to tell them that we sent you there when they ask, where did you hear about them? Invest in the health and longevity of your skin with OneSkin. Your future self is definitely going to be thanking you. Do you think age plays a role in these kinds of situations? 18 years old?
100%. That puts her at higher risk. Absolutely.
How so? I hate to be, not knowing the right nomenclature here, but is that such a young age that it affects someone's decision making?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, we've spoken about this before. The brain develops from the back to the front. The last part of the brain to develop is called the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain that's responsible for executive functioning, planning, organizing, impulse control. And we're dealing with an 18-year-old girl here who just legally became an adult, who may act impulsively, who may do things and not weigh the future consequences of her actions, who is involved in an extreme crisis situation. So all this plays into it.
And by the way, in your experience, have you ever seen that being used as a defense in these kinds of cases, the age?
Oh, it's used quite frequently with young defendants.
In what way?
To talk about the fact that people are emotionally immature, that they have poor impulse control, that they're unable to exercise restraint, that they don't weigh the future consequences of their actions in all those ways.
Maybe mitigating circumstances. Okay, so according to a police statement that was in support of a high bond, Everilda allegedly gave birth behind this taco truck and then immediately tied the baby up in the trash bag and threw him away. Now, witness video that was obtained by ABC 13 in Houston shows the moments when first responders found Gabriel. Imagine what it was like for them to respond to a scene like this. He was so new to the world that his skin and hair were still wet. And when it comes to video, the bond order states that the event, either the birth, the disposal, both, was caught on surveillance video. So, Dr. Bober, would video showing the aftermath help investigators or experts determine her state of mind at the time in any way?
Listen, I think it's all important. It's one more piece of data. But I think talking to her, trying to understand what was going through her mind, trying to look at the events leading up to when she did it. Again, I mean, I'm sure for the first responders, this was a horrific scene, but I don't know that just having a video of the act itself is going to tell the whole story. I would want to interview her. I'd want to talk to her and try to understand, what led up to this. And there was clearly, I've at least read, there was a lack of preparation, a lack of prenatal care. Again, that may or may not be true. But again, to me, that also is consistent with someone who was in a state of denial about her situation and just felt completely overwhelmed.
Now, in an interview with the Washington Post last year, Everilda said that the baby was the product, as you mentioned, of rape by a family member. She claims she hadn't even known she was pregnant for about 7 months and didn't want to seek medical attention because she was afraid of being deported. She also said, as Dr. Bober mentioned, she had no idea about Texas's safe haven laws that allow a baby to be surrendered at places like hospitals or fire stations without legal consequences. But I will tell you, in a sick twist, Everilda reportedly told investigators that, quote, she had no other choice because she didn't want her boyfriend to break up with her. Okay, Dr. Bober. A lot of complicating factors here to consider, but that one feels a bit callous, no?
So that to me sounds like a very immature, very poorly planned response and emotion. But again, it goes back to what we said about her being 18 years old, using the limbic cortex, that emotional part of her brain, and not this part of the brain here, which is the thinking part of the brain, the rational part of the brain. All emotion, all gas and no brakes. That's what comes across in a statement like that. I mean, to you and I, it seems ridiculous that she would say something like that. But in her mind, maybe her boyfriend was her sole source of support emotionally, financially, and she couldn't risk losing that. So again, that is to me consistent with an 18-year-old girl who is an immigrant, who is not part of our culture, who doesn't understand our roles and our customs, and who has almost no support.
Dr. Bober, how is it possible someone couldn't realize they're pregnant for so long? There's one sense to say the physical indicators, but you mentioned this idea of the product, the way that this baby was conceived, and I wonder if subconsciously someone just doesn't recognize it, pushes it down, doesn't want to accept that they're actually pregnant. Again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I am curious, how is it possible, if we take this as true, someone couldn't realize or appreciate they're pregnant for months?
I have seen it twice in my career. The mind is a powerful thing. Denial is a powerful thing. If people go through trauma, the mind can do powerful things. You can convince yourself of almost anything. And again, for someone who's never gone through it, for someone who's never seen it, it's probably very difficult to understand. But to a large degree, people see what they want to see and they believe what they want to believe.
Now, when Everilda was arrested, she was first given a $90,000 bond. The judge ended up increasing it, and according to court documents, the increase was because there were questions about Everilda's immigration status. She's originally from Guatemala. So she was charged with one felony count of abandoning a child without the intent to return, but Everilda agreed to a plea deal in which she agreed to plead guilty to one count of abandoning a child in imminent danger of bodily injury. That's a second-degree felony. Now, on Monday, July 28th, almost a year to the day that she gave birth, Everilda was sentenced to serve 7 years in a state correctional facility. She never got out of jail on bond, so she received a year of credit on her sentence for time served, and once the sentence is over, it is expected that she'll be deported back to Guatemala. Now, before I go on to the status of Gabriel, the baby, Dr. Bober, how does someone like her fare in prison? How does she cope with that, given what she has pled guilty to?
Oh, I think it's going to be very difficult for her, but I hope that with time she will come to a sense of understanding for what she did and what motivated the behavior. I don't know how other prisoners will view her, perhaps very harshly, but I do see her at some level as a sympathetic figure, even though what she did was horrific. I don't see her as some of the other cases we've discussed. I see her as more of a sympathetic figure, someone who was weak, someone who was overwhelmed, someone who was in over her head. And so I do think that there is redemption for her.
Do you think she needs mental health treatment?
100%.
And with that treatment, when she's released from prison, could she go on to live a semi-normal life? Is she a danger? Or do you say this is a prime candidate to be able to be rehabilitated, to reflect on what she did, and this is a terrible situation, but at the end of the day, she could learn from this in some way?
I do think that. I think there's rehabilitation for her. I think there's hope for her. I believe that after she completes her sentence, that she will be sent back to her home country. And again, this is a terrible situation. There's no winners here. Everyone loses. But hopefully in the future, she can come to terms with this. She can find a new understanding of herself and hopefully go on and live a productive life.
Well, I want to talk about Gabriel. So in a bit of good news, Gabriel is said to be happy and healthy. A spokesperson told the Houston Chronicle today, baby Gabriel is healthy, thriving, and living with his foster parents. We are grateful to the person who happened to hear his cries from the dumpster, called police, and ultimately saved Gabriel's life. That's 100% true. If that person did not do that, we would be dealing with very different situation, very different charges, a very different outcome. So Dr. Bober, Gabriel has survived this. Too young.
And that's the most important thing.
Yeah, but too young to feel the effects of what happened to him. I mean, is there going to be residual memories, residual effects of this? I mean, once especially he learns what happened to him.
So I think from learning about it, obviously that will be a shocking thing for him to hear, but probably no memory, given that he was just born. I don't think that there will be lasting trauma from that necessarily, no.
What are you most concerned about with him growing up? I mean, the effects of essentially not having a mother, realizing what she did to him. Do you think that this is just, like, what are you most concerned about?
I would be most concerned that he was in a loving, stable environment, that he had consistent caregivers, that he didn't have a lack of social support or family support, which is exactly what his mother was lacking.
By the way, this is not the only case that we talked about recently that's eerily similar. So in April of 2024, University of Tampa freshman Brianna Moore, who we've talked about, she gave birth in a shared dorm bathroom without telling anyone that she was pregnant. It was a fact that she later admitted she may have been in denial about. And originally from Mississippi, Moore said she woke up feeling unwell, gave birth alone, later placed the newborn in a trash can after claiming the baby had died shortly after birth. And she then showered, returned to bed, seemingly hoping to keep the incident a secret. Her plan unraveled when roommates discovered blood in the bathroom, the baby's body in the trash, prompted a police investigation. And at first she denied being pregnant, telling campus security the blood was from her period. But her suite mates had heard what sounded like a baby crying. They grew increasingly suspicious. And now she's headed to trial, I believe, next year. It's been delayed. That's a different situation, Dr. Bober, but also eerily similar as well.
Yes, and the case that I was familiar with was someone, strangely enough, who actually was in Tampa when it happened, who was a college student. She had the baby in the women's bathroom. She left the baby in the toilet, and she left the bathroom and left the baby there. The baby was found. The baby actually survived, and she was ultimately acquitted at trial.
How so?
Psychiatrist that testified in the case said that she was suffering from a dissociative disorder, similar to what I just said, where she was connected from her thoughts and feelings, and that she had gone through psychological denial and was so overwhelmed by the stress of the situation that she essentially was insane at the time.
But that's a tough defense, right? It's not like every young mother who gives birth and discards their baby because it seems such an unthinkable crime and such an unthinkable act. It's not just, I can claim that, right?
I think it's an uphill battle for a defense strategy like that because, let's be honest, most people on a jury are going to be repulsed by an act like that because exactly what you said, right? There's a maternal instinct to protect your child, and it goes against everything that you believe for most people. But that defense was successful, and she was acquitted. It was a pretty incredible case.
Dr. Daniel Bober, thank you so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.